Hi, you've tuned into State of South Asia, a podcast from Himal South Asian, where we have the best minds on the region to unpack crucial issues affecting our politics, cultures, environments, and societies. I'm your host, Nayantara Narayanan, coming to you from Bangalore. This week, we have not one, but three guests to talk about the Gen Z protests in Nepal that turned into a revolution. By now, you've heard all the punditry on Nepal's politics and political history. But on this podcast today, we're going to be talking about what this moment can mean for the aspirations of different sections of the country going forward. I have with me Ujjawala Maharjan, a poet and educator from Kathmandu, Anjali Sah, a law student in Kathmandu, originally from the Madhesh, and Tashi Lhozam, a climate activist and social scientist from the Humla district in the highlands of Nepal. Ujjawala, Tashi, and Anjali, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Before we go further, a reminder that Himal is an independent magazine completely free of government and corporate interest. Your support means the world to us. Help our in-depth journalism by becoming a paying patron for as little as $5 per month. Visit our website himalmag.com and click on Support Himal. Now, all eyes have been on Nepal since last week, when a large but loosely organized protest by young people in Kathmandu turned into a revolution that brought down the government. You probably already know the details, but just in case you were on a digital detox or you were on a holiday in the middle of a jungle without any network coverage, here are the highlights. On September 8th, many groups of young college and schoolgoers took out a peaceful march in Kathmandu. There had been rising anger about systemic corruption and nepotism among the political class, and that was the foundation for these protests. The immediate trigger, however, was a government announcement of a social media ban. The announcement of the ban itself was due to a government requirement that tech companies register in Nepal, and many not having done so. But the ban was also seen by many of the protesters as a way for the government to silence dissent and criticism. For many weeks before the protest, videos had been circulating of so called Nepo babies, that is, children of rich and influential people, flaunting their lavish lifestyles, while much of the rest of Nepal was dealing with poverty and the lack of jobs and opportunities for advancement. For more context on these protests, visit our website himalmag.com and read the insightful commentary by Himal's editor Roman Gautam and contributor Pranay Rana, who are both based in Kathmandu and are longtime observers of Nepal's sociopolitics. You'll also find links to these pieces in our episode notes. Now, the government came down hard on these protests. Police fired into the crowds on the 8th of September, and at least 19 people were killed. Things then got even more out of hand. On the 9th, there was widespread violence in anger and retaliation at the government action. Mobs sent buildings, including the parliament, ablaze, attacked politicians, their families, and anyone who was seen to be close to power. More people were killed, with a reported death toll of 51 by the weekend. The Prime Minister, KP Oli, resigned, army patrols took over the streets, and rumors and speculation also took over. The power vacuum led to fears in Nepal of foreign interference, or a push for a return to the monarchy, or even a takeover by the army. Meanwhile, Gen Zers had been holding public town hall style meetings on the online platform Discord to discuss their agendas and a way forward. On Friday night, they voted for Sushila Karki, a former Chief Justice, to lead the interim government. Sushila Karki is now the first woman Prime Minister of Nepal. So much has already been said and written about the events of last week, about Nepal's history of protest and failed revolution, and about the simmering disaffection for the government and the political class. But today we're looking at what Nepal's Gen Z and others hope for in the coming days, months, and years, and what about Nepal's politics, economy, and society needs fixing. So once again, Ujjwala, Tashi, and Anjali, thank you so much for making the time to be here today. Tashi, if I can start with you, you were leading one of the groups that organized the protest. Can you tell us about what people around you were feeling when they were, and what they were talking about in the days before the protest? And once the ban was announced, how did things change?
Yes, so I was leading in my own capacity, as well as in very close connection with the major leaders of this protest. It's very first important to know the context about how this thing came into, and the context is not the September 7th, not September 6th, not the necessarily the planning of this protest, but rather it goes into the systematic representation of how young people are treated in this country. And the most important thing I find is that this government structure has never really taken the young people, especially the Gen Z people, as a serious political actor or non-political actor, and they were considered stereotypically as unserious generations. And I'm saying this from my own experience because I do a lot of advocacy and activism, especially in the realm of climate change. And when you do that, the kind of reactions that and the response you get from the government is like, oh, these kids are complaining. They don't say it, but that has been their how that has been how they comply, how they connotate their view on us. So before this protest, a lot of us, my friends, we are always in this always leading something all the time. Some of us are in the very much student into this student and human right advocacy. There are some people like me who are in the climate advocacy, and there are also many people who are into this what's the word, migrant labor, that Nepal has a huge issue with. So we are, all of us were to some extent a leader in our own field, and we all have gone through that. And there's already a mounted frustration of young people against the government. But does this government or the system give us a chance to politically represent us? That is a question, and perhaps the answer has always been not and never a meaningful political participation for young people. And who takes that the space, the young people space, the 40-year-old people, so-called young people, takes our space in the government when it comes to representing us? They're not giving meaningful executive positions within the political party's apparatus. So in one way or another, young people do not have have a valid say in this
Mm.
government's decision making, despite us being a huge portion of our population.
And also, they don't see, they're not holding themselves accountable to you as young people.
Not at all.
Weeks before the conversation really was about corruption and nepotism. Tell us more about what people were saying and thinking at that point of time.
The conversation before the protest was more of like the nepotism, the nepo kids trend already started before the ban of social media. It was a triggering point. Like everybody was seeing this economic disparity very very evidently, and the question was, where is the money coming from? It was very clear because there's a tendency to say that Gen Z in general is considered as stereotypically considered as unserious people. But then when we see our own counterpart Gen Z, but of nepo babies, enjoying a extreme lavish life, the question is, where is the money coming from? And it spiraled in social media. As it was spiraling in the social media was banned. These two were coupling together one after another, and the thing was, okay, we need to talk against this one. uh, and our goal initially was to do social media advocacy even before the media was banned. My friend and we were like doing social media advocacy, saying, okay, let's call them, let's expose them how they did in the Philippines. That was our goal. And then there were more angers coming out saying, oh, social media advocacy alone is not enough. We need to take on to the street. Just as we were discussing those social media got banned. And when it was banned, we had no place to share our thoughts. We had no place to show where we stand in this economic disparity. So things, then we started organizing, and one of the first thing we also did was telling everybody to use VPN. use VPN because social media is all we have for widespread of the information, to widespread and disseminate the information. So we had to tell people, do this, do that, use a VPN, and we're gonna organize this and all of that. And we're
Yeah.
calling out the celebrities as well, because they have better followers, more followers and influence. So this was the initial feeling. The initial feeling was more about about economic disparity and corruption, and the fact that we have high employment rate here, but then
Mm.
our politicians, they seem to be out of the reality touch. And I would say, and one of the conversation that took my attention was, one of my friends said, oh, they're starting at level 10, we're starting at 0. The Nepal kids of political elites are starting at number 10, and we're starting at number 0. And some of us, the marginalized people, or those at the fringes of the Nepal state services, are even starting at minus 10. So so this disparity was fueling so hard that, and the rage of anti-corruption, is not only existing in Gen Z, it's across the multi generations of Nepal. So we knew that if we make this about anti-corruption, which it essentially is, then we know that we will get a lot of support. But for us to know, to gather our own Gen Z people to participate in this protest, we knew that we had to use Gen Z coded language or Gen Z relevant information.
And certainly, you all have proven how powerful social media can be, because this is probably the first time that a prime minister of a country has been voted in on a social media app, which is Discord. But Anjali, if I can come to you, a lot of people have been talking about Nepal's Gen Z now, using it as a broad, sweeping umbrella term to describe all of Nepal's youth. But among the Gen Z, people come from so many different backgrounds of ethnicity, caste, class. So while overall Gen Zers face maybe the same problems of unemployment in Nepal and the lack of opportunity, they're also fighting these battles at different levels, depending on where they come from and what their backgrounds are. Now, you are from Madhesh, in the southern plains or the Terai region of Nepal, and Madhesh has been fighting its own battle against neglect and discrimination and exploitation by the Kathmandu led political establishment. And this has gone on for many decades. Um, I want to ask you what the Gen Z protest and the revolution mean for Gen Zers from Madhes. Is there any convergence between this decades-long struggle in the Madhes and what has happened now in the past week?
Yeah, since you mentioned that Gen Z is an umbrella term, which is very true, and also every term has been like an umbrella for me. Madhes itself has become umbrella for the, when you say Madhesi youth, there are youth who are similar to the Nepo kids. There are youth who are struggling, and let me borrow Tasi's word, who said that someone starts from 10, someone starts from 0, and someone starts from minus 10, and that is actual scenario of Madhes and overall Nepal. And that's also in between Gen Z group as well. Even I remember being on the protest on September 8. I see people around me and I see them as starting from 10. Even if they were in the protest, they started from 10, where which I did not get chance to, which my people did not get chance to. So yeah, it's very interesting, and it signifies that how umbrella term is a Gen Z, and how does this protest has occupied Madhe's interest, or Madhesi youth inclusiveness in itself. Then yeah, the frustration is similar. Maybe all the youth of Nepal has frustration with the only politician, but we have frustration with many layers of people, with many layers of mindset, which we have to deal it in every day. Despite I'm in the class, I am a law student, I'm going to be a lawyer next year, and despite that, I'm not seen as the same lawyer which my fellow lawyers are. Despite, if even if I am, for example, if I'm getting 98 percentage and they are getting 58 percentage, they are going to get good jobs and good market value than me getting 98 percentage. So that's there. So yeah, there is a caste hierarchy, there is a class hierarchy, there is a racial hierarchy among the youth, and among the frustration. When you share the frustration, I have to listen it, but when I share my frustration, you do not listen to me, and that keeps happening in the protest. And I saw those people also in the street. That gave me happiness, because okay, on some level they are being aware, and that gave me happiness that okay, now is the time they are changing their mindset, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, it was uh, a little bit of sadness for me, because we fought for federalism so hard last 10 years. We are trying to keep it more, how we can strengthen it, and so much and so forth. But this Gen Z movement and people who are advocating it, some of them just said it without intention or with intention to quash the federalism for the emergency period. And that was the part, like okay, am I don't belong to a Gen Z movement, or my idea does not fit with them, or what just happened here. I started feeling alienated. And that's when I started, not only I, but so many Madhesi youth, we started coming together, and we created Gen Z Madhesi youth group, Gen Z United Madhesi youth group, and so much and so forth. And we did our own agendas and meetings and everything. And despite on the discussion table, we don't know exactly who were the people, but we know that there were very less presence of Madhesi people. So me being a law student, I have been working in the feminist area, I have been working in the intersectional area, how the layers of caste class matters a lot on the issue, on the protest. For example, even if we talk about fundings, then we do not have so much access that other people of the same group have, even if they do not have direct political lineage in their family. It's just because of their surname, it's just because of the color they are born with. So yeah, there is a frustration within the youth group as well, which people do not want to listen to us, or they just put out their ear against us. So when this Gen Z movement started, initially I had a thought maybe I'm not part of it, but with so much thought, it's a historical moment. And also, despite our layer of frustrations are different, but frustration is there, and corruption is one of the bigger challenges, one of the bigger umbrella. And that's where Madhesi Gen Z found themselves, and we were part of this, and we're still part of this. And we want this interim government formed under Susila Karki would be more inclusive, not just Madhesi, but from the class wise, from the caste wise, and from everything wise. So our main agenda of seeing ourselves is through the lens of inclusiveness, through the lens of federalism, and through the lens of transparency from even the people who are leading the Gen Z protest, and even the people who are sitting on the discussion table. So I think that's my take on this.
Anjali and Tashi, you all both belong to the Gen Z, of course, but as you all pointed out, this is really, the the protest was really about the demands of people across ages. Ujjwala, you're not Gen Z, you're slightly older, you're probably millennial. While all the protests were going on, you put out a video on Instagram pointing out that if Nepal really wants lasting systemic change, then this wasn't just a fight against the political class, but there were social hierarchies that need to be dismantled. There are questions to be asked about gender discrimination. You've really pointed out to the intersectionalities uh, that need to be addressed. Tell us a little more about what you're thinking in the context of what's happened right now.
Thank you, Nayantara, and thank you, Tashi and Anjali, for those very insightful things that you've already brought. And actually, the thing I would like to add is something that we have to proceed together. And in this particular moment, this binary, or this thing of the old and the young, and the thing of oh, we've done this, and then you're just starting, that has to that has to that has to be dissolved for us to really come together, right? And so even now, right, like with Tashi and Anjali, this, we already know that this both of them are not most of the people who are on the streets, who came in fueled by some kind of the social media ban, and some kind of the nepo baby trends. Both of them have been working towards some kind of revolutionary, some kind of transformative change in their own spaces, in their
Right.
own places, even as individuals, right? What and that is what I was rallying up for as well. I was like, yes, the people that I know, like Anjali, I've been able to work with briefly. Tashi, I was looking at her work, and all these younger people that I've been surrounded by, thankfully, have been women and queer folks and people who've been talking about this from a really long time. But as we mentioned, and as we have to acknowledge, Gen Z is also multiplicities like all these other groups that we are talking about, right? So how do we make sure that we are we're working together? Because Anjali already pointed this out, right? Federalism, just even if we take federalism, that was gained by long struggle, right? And what we saw, the little marginal improvement that we saw in representation of Dalit folks, in representation of, do we have queer folks out there, right? Like, so in these, or indigenous people from indigenous movements, right? Those are gains that have been won by long battles. And it is not just in the parliament, these political spheres, right? These are struggles that have been going on the ground for decades now. And when we say coming together and thinking about this, it is not just about thinking with like the people, the parliaments that were now dissolved, but the wisdom that comes from being on the ground, right? The patience it takes to sustain a revolution, we need to be able to sustain that. And with this current momentum, this is beautiful that the things were aligned, people were working. And Tashi always says, this part I did not know, that, you know, the conversation was already going on before, even before the social media ban, to have these protests on the street, right? So this kind of sustained movement, and yes, the fueled by the anger, the rage, the frustration, lifetime even frustrations, and the love. I really really think that so many of the young people, when they saw their contemporaries having these lavish life, and their parents were mocked for, what was that guy being like, tell your father to work hard, right? So much of love for all the parents, their guardians, their loved ones toiling abroad, so many people who have not come back, so many people dead, right? So many people, so all of that has to be taken into account, right? And be like, the love kind of manifested into this rage, into this revolution. But it also, we have to be wary of it being, which we've already seen, being co-opted by rage, a very specific kind of masculine rage, and that puts them in the front line in this kind of scenarios, right? Like the let it be the protest, or even in the political government seats, right? There's a way to be almost in this system. You have to be like willing to take up space, you have to be, so things like that. And so now people like Tashi, like Anjali, like so many young people I know who are doing this work in the background, along with people of different generations that I know who are working, who've been doing this work for so long, that the danger is that this is again being co-opted by people who are, which might seem to like us, rising to the moment, which I guess is there as well. You have to rise to the moment at this point. But as we plan now, like Anjali said, she felt at one point that this is not my revolution, this is not my protest. We have to make sure that this going forward is now for everybody, including I work with a lot of Dalit women, and Dalit women from Madhesh. We Anjali and I work with together as well, who are not even on social media, right? And how do we make sure that we listen to them with humility, right? Not from like, oh, we're going to save you. Because even among us, even we have to check on us, because I've been through this whole stage of oh my god, there's so much injustice, oh my god, these people are not listening to us, we're going to take over, right? And not realizing that there still are walls that I don't even see, that I have to break even within myself, right, or in the bigger society. So that is why I think it is important to listen to all the people who've been working on this and trying to sustain these movements, and the revolution as we go forward.
Thanks, Ujjwala. Very powerfully said. And I think what I hear you saying is one, the revolution is not over, it's just beginning. Secondly, of course, there is this very, the hyper masculine kind of embodiment of the revolution, which is setting things ablaze, and the vandalism provide great visuals. But the real work is being done quietly on the ground, and that's been happening for many years. And like as both you and Anjali have brought forward, is that in this need and speed for change, we can't forget what marginalized groups, the gains that they've made. We have to be very conscious that these are not reversed, and basically make sure that everyone's interests and everyone is being listened to. Um, Tashi, you've also you have a view. You've worked with indigenous groups. What do you think that their role and their representation also can be in protest and in any form of governance going forward?
And this is a very important question, and also this is one of the reasons that I brought more indigenous people, or at least I call it big. The reality is that this this protest was not planned necessarily strategically. This was more of a, okay, somebody has to say something and let's say it. It rather come like that one. So when you are going with the flow, then certain things get missed, such as inclusion. Unfortunately, in South Asia, inclusion doesn't come naturally because we love social hierarchies so much. We love social hierarchy. We worship them. We celebrate and glorify it and everything. In fact, all the historical sufferings in this region are because of social hierarchies to a great extent. So inclusion doesn't come naturally, and as a young indigenous leader myself, I realized that if I don't take active participations, my people will be left out. Indigenous people's voice will be left out. Marginalized people, Dalit and Madheshi, and the Muslim minorities, their voices will be left out if not taken with a conscious, concerted efforts in this protest.
Mm,
The reality is that yes, there are Gen Z everywhere. There are Gen Zs in minority groups. There are Gen Zs in non-minority and historically privileged groups. But for us to bring the minority people into this mainstream protest, we need conscious effort. And uh, and the thing is, Gen Z is not a homogeneous group. Like I was saying, that there are Gen Z's from privileged group, there are Gen Z's from indigenous group, there are Gen Z's from Madhesh Pradesh, there are Gen Z's from Dalits, there are Gen Z from Muslims, and many more other in minority and marginalized groups. Each of us brings a different layer of political sufferings.
mm,
Yes, corruption is one suffering that binds us all. In fact, the entire Nepali can bone on the corruption, the trauma of corruption. But then there are layers of other systematic traumas that others minority groups go through, and my role was to make sure that this protest and movement does not become another Baun Kshetri protest. So Baun Kshetri in this context refers to Brahmins and Kshatriyas of Nepal who are overrepresented in the government. My first thing was to tell my I come from the mountains of Himalayas.
yeah.
We are one of the least political community. Oh, we are glorified as a something called peace loving community. Yes, we are peaceful, but we're not stupid. So that's something I wanted to prove, and I needed to bring my people. And I said that if you stay inside your own community and talk about our issue only, then you become a leader of our community only. You do not become a leader of the national level. If you want to talk about national level, if you want to be a leader at the national level, you have to take the issues of your grassroots and connect it with the national development, and take it. And it's something like the development of indigenous people is also the development of Nepal, something like this, rather than saying, oh, we need indigenous inclusion only. So I said that we need to take active participation into this issue because these issues will never think about us. So we have to consciously go and reclaim our space there. Nobody's going to create a space there. Even if the spaces are created in the national level, somebody will find their way to occupy it. without and talk about you without mention, without having you there. So
Right.
this is the thing. And I wanted active participation of my people. So my role within that group was to ensure that to bring more and more marginalized people as much as possible in this protest, and to make it and to make sure that in this process we do not compromise on telling about the issues of indigenous Gen Zs as well. One of the major issues of indigenous Gen Z is that internalized inferiority complex.
Mm.
Like no one talks about it, but on the psychological level, a lot of some of our leaders shrink when once the minute they went outside of their comfort zone, that is their community zone. Once they go outside of the community, then they have language barrier issue, and then they, some of them think like, oh, I cannot speak with and compete with the Kshatriyan bound because, well, they are well off people and they can speak the language very well. You know, indigenous people speaks different language. I think we have 61 different indigenous groups so far recognized by the government of Nepal.
Right.
So all of them, we all have different languages and all of these things. So my goal was to integrate them and to make sure that in this protest they do not forget the indigenous issues as well. And one of the major issues this protest faced was a creeping of autocratic uh, regimes or autocratic people with autocratic mindset into the system, trying to take the advantage of the entire vulnerability.
Mm.
And this was attacking Nepal's secularism as well, Nepal's federalism as well, the entire democracy as well. The reality is that for these things to come, Nepal's social inclusion, secularism, federalism, even the indigenous, the minority people have also fought a long fight for this. And we do not want them to go away. Because the minute it comes into the hand of autocratic and authoritative governments, those authoritative and autocratic governments or the regimes behind those are not socially inclusive.
Mm.
It is always trial and error in democracy, and we need that. But once it goes into the hand of autocratic, which it almost went, I feel like it was scary. It was very very scary. At certain point, I was like, oh my god, am I gonna wake today? I'm a citizen. Am I gonna wake up tomorrow as a king's subject or something? You
Mm.
know, it was very very scary.
Right.
And from the minority people's perspective, the monarchy has been the OG oppressor and suppressor of minority people and marginalized people. I feel like the word minority can be natural because it just means you are smaller in number. But
Mm-hmm.
marginalization is a conscious political choice and decision which started during the time of monarchy itself. So the seed of marginalization of today's indigenous and Madhesh people was sowed during the time of monarchy only. And when I saw monarchies trying to creep into the system and trying to protect themselves as a legitimate force, it was scary. It was scary. And I need to and I had to tell our at least the indigenous friends and allies that we should not be supporting this at any means. Yeah.
Right. I'm just going to take a moment to remind our listeners that for more than 35 years now, Himal has been reporting on movements, revolutions, and upheavals across South Asia. You can read the daily dispatches and long term analysis from the monsoon uprising in Bangladesh last year and the trials and tribulations of Sri Lankans during the Aragalaya in 2022. All this is on our website, himalmag.com. I will also link to many of these pieces in the episode notes. Himal brings you cross border stories that you won't find anywhere else. It takes a lot to do this kind of in depth, independent journalism, and we rely on listeners like you. You can support the magazine by becoming a paying patron. Click on the link in the episode notes or go to our website, himalmag.com, and click Support Himal. You can also sign up to our newsletters to keep up with our latest stories, events, and more. Now back to our conversation with Anjali Sah, Tashi Lhozam, and Ujjawala Maharjan. Anjali, can you give us an idea of how Gen Z organizers have been conducting these meetings on Discord and what has been discussed? And secondly, now that Sushila Karki is the head of the interim government, what can be a way forward in terms of forming this government and ultimately elections in Nepal?
before talking about Discord, I just realized one thing while Tashi and Ujjwala was speaking about the government and everything. So it's been 10 years we are talking about the brutality of our the then Prime Minister, but nobody believed us, especially their party cadre leaders and everything, because when we were protesting, they just uh, compared us with ripened mangoes and so on and so forth. So yeah, so many things were there and we were talking about, but nobody were believing on us. And whenever we were protesting, either we were arrested or we were never addressed by the ministries. But then this 2 days movement happened and it got the national momentum. So yeah, it's very silly and very fulfilling moment. And when we discussed uh, this things on Discord, I was back and forth on the Discord call because it was too much, and whenever I wanted to talk or the people from my community wanted to talk, they either did not get chance, or when they were speaking or they were writing, their mic were mute, sometime their messages were deleted. I don't know if it was Discord server error or it was the people from the other groups who did not wanted to listen us again and again. So yeah, and also on the Discord we found out one of the agenda by the whole GenZ protest or the Hami Nepal organization. There was a clear written thing of dismantling federalism, which was the direct saying us like, okay, go back, you are excluded from this protest and all. So yeah, those happy and at the same time emotional and the identity crisis was happening on the Discord call. At the same time, it was very fulfilling and very happy moment that over than 9,200 people were on the Discord, and everybody were screaming their voice, everybody was writing, everybody was like doing the poll, and like, we're supporting this person, we're supporting this person, and we were pinching in, some of us were pinching in that, no, this leader is this is a very authoritarian, this is this. And at the same time, by we were talking with the people who are not on Discord, like, come on Discord, the poll is happening, and we need 7,000 votes to choose Susila Karki. So right now Susila Karki is obviously not the best, but we have the better person among the options we have, so we have to vote for them. So we're on the mission to keep the poll over 7,000 so that we can elect her. So I now feel the rush and the happiness to do that as well. So yeah, Discord call uh, in a way or another way elected Susila Karki as our prime minister. It was not a formal election, but it was a Gen Z led election where so many people who could not afford internet access to the accessibility to internet could not be part of this conversation, or even if they were not given chance to speak or even be part of the poll, because Discord server is quite hard to explore because we're not very used to with that app. So yeah, that those things were happening on that Discord call, and the whole day was spent on there, and we're panicking, just like Tasi said, that what if we wake up tomorrow and we're like, okay, we do not have democracy, we do not have anything at all. The 2 day movement just went away, 51 people died for nothing, and every vandalism happened, which is wrong, but at the same time it happened, and we have lost so many things. We have lost our national monument, we have lost our heritage, we have lost our all three organs, we have lost so many important files, and now what we get? Monarchy, military co-op. So that fear was imminent, and we were active on every group chat. My phone was very heated, my laptop was heated, and still we could not just stop thinking because my mind was heated. I had pain on my stomach, and it was not just my condition but everyone's condition, where one way or another were very similar. Because what did we get? And so many people started posting on Facebook that I regret going on the Gen Z protest, and that made me even more sadder about the Discord call. And people started criticizing Discord call, which I liked as well because it was not inclusive at all. But at the same time, it was happening, guys. Let's just trust the process. We Gen Z people also do not have this patience, which I can say it now because previously I worked in the setting with all the generation people, but now when I was in the Discord call, most of them were Gen Z, or sugar coated Gen Z despite being 38 years old. Sorry. So yeah, there were people calling themselves Gen Z and all. So every mixed feeling or were on the Gen Z call, Discord call, and the happiness, the sadness, and also still after we have selected our interim government head and the president has approved, still so many law students are opposing against it because it is unconstitutional, and so many so forth things are happening still on social media. So my major demand or my major hope from this interim government is that it would be inclusive, and it would be a reminder that when we choose a women leader, they are feminist ideology, and not just a feminist, intersectional feminist, and she will abide by the value because we have seen her judgment and we have seen her so many good things on the internet. At the same time, we haven't seen her her critical side as well, like how Madhesi women were never regarded as a competent person in a judge post when she appointed so many judges when while she was the chief justice. So yeah, there are a lot of questions, there are a lot of trust on Susila Karki. At the same time, we do not want to deification, or we do not want to make her god. We want to question her every time on every step, so that because we selected her not to repeat the mistake but to question her, and I hope she would address our questions at least, if not solve it. So yeah, that's the hope, and I hope the interim government will be inclusive, but I do not have fully trust on her about this, because when people comes in power, they forget sometime what why they are sent for.
So clearly, you're going to be watching closely. But Tashi, I think you also had something to say about the Discord calls.
It was oh, very clear that we wanted Sushila Karki. Even before the Discord, the general sentiment is so clear. The Discord call helped us to put that in number. uh,
Hmm.
it was at the same time, I have to tell this, that our first priority was not necessarily her per se. It was the mayor of Kathmandu that we all are, a lot of us are, backing, hoping for him to take up the position. In fact, when we announced the protest, he was one of the first few major leaders from the mainstream politics to endorse us and saying that now the youths will come. And we had really had faith and hope in him that he might take the lead. But it's also understandable why he didn't do it. And when Sushila Karki said that if the Gen Z people wants me, then I am ready. Oh, it was a huge, huge hope for us. It was a very beautiful, because a lot of our youth leaders, in the political space, they're not necessarily willing to take this up. Some are begging out, including very Gen Z friendly leaders like Sumana Shrestha. They are like backing up,
Hmm.
and so many other people. So when she said that, when she announced her own stance, it was very clear that it is that general sentiments want her. And Discord, like I said, I know Discord is taking a lot of credit in this, like, oh, we helped to hold the election of Nepal without democracy, whatever this is. But the thing is, it only helped us to give a number, the data, and it was so clear. So I want to say this because and another important thing that I wanted to say was that wait, I forgot my own point.
Take your
Uh,
time.
oh yeah, I met Sushila Karki before she became prime minister. I mean,
Hmm.
long before. And my own personal take on her was that she when I met her, she said that people like you need to come up more. The indigenous and the marginalized people come up more. The laws, she is, of course, she's a former chief justice, so she knows every nook and corner of the law. She said that law has given a great space for you. Law is for you people. You need to come up and reclaim those power, because right now the law is becoming just a good on paper only, not in the implementation. But you need to speak up more. And she literally is wearing the face of anti-corruption and intersectional feminists. So I also had to endorse her to my community, to the indigenous people here, because even though she's not one among us, she's definitely from Chatri and Baun. But then given that she has a strong intersectional feminist background who loves rule of the law, and that it doesn't mean that I have fully 110% faith that she's gonna be pro marginalized people as well. So it's very important for people of all class and caste to be super vigilant of where this government is heading to, especially indigenous people. Like I said, if we let it go with the flow, then inclusion is not natural. Inclusion does not come natural. Inclusion takes conscious effort from non-political pressuring groups to make the government take care into it.
So when initially all the Gen Z people wanted Balendra Shah as our prime minister, I had the major concern that he should not be. And my even like effort went because he was the one who threw out the street vendors with no jobs and no things at the backup. He has violated human rights at so much extent. Yes, he has beautified the place of Kathmandu, but Kathmandu was for everyone, Kathmandu, but he beautified it and through the so many street vendor people, so many Sukumbasi people. So he was always in the controversy in the tech of human right violation. So I, being a law student and human right advocate, I never approved of him personally, and I wanted people, Gen Z youths, to look out more things about him and then talk about him. So that's why I said that Susila Karki is not the best, but the better among the option we had. I was really offended, not on this call, but in everything. Whenever I'm hearing, always the marginalized people are counted as numbers rather than a decision-making stakeholders, and that's what also happened in this movement, and that's still happening. So yeah. I hope that Susila Karki see us as a people than a number.
Right, and like you point out, there's certainly criticisms of Balendra Shah, both his lack of experience because he has only been mayor of Kathmandu, and that has a certain authoritarian style. Ujjwala, if I can come to you, who or what kind of people would you like to see in the new interim government and in the long term in a finally an elected government?
Right. And yeah, I think I'll just add on to what has already been said by Tashi and Anjali. And we can already see, even within us, right, there's some sort of differences of, I don't know, difference of opinion sounds really not, hasn't, doesn't hold the same gravity, but there is differences. But I'm thinking of Audre Lorde when she says we have to make sure that these differences don't separate us, like people like us, like in a lot of these liberal progressive spaces, we're so quick to call us out, whereas there's a lot of need of calling us in, right? And now going to what you're saying about who and what kind of leaders, we cannot be calling in names like Balendra Shah or even Sushila Karki. I'm really glad that Anjali said we are not going to be like deifying any of these figures, right? We're going to hold them accountable, we're going to be vigilant, right? Even Kulman Singh, who has come up, right, and he's touted as a national hero, and he's done some amazing things. But just recently I got a post about like how he has in the name of development of these hydroelectricity, the hydropowers, right? There have been a lot of injustice done to the indigenous communities that lived around that area, right? So we have to make sure that we're asking of our leaders to be aware of what they're doing. And I think this has already been said, but coming again back to systems like caste, like class, like patriarchy, uh, like this, even these things are so my friend Sarita Pariyar, who's a writer and a Dalit activist, says that we breathe the air that has caste in it, that has patriarchy in it. So of course it is within us, right? And we're thinking about, when we're saying we need vigilance, we also need introspection, right? So by saying that, oh, Balendra Shah, what is he going to do? He's hyper nationalistic. That's something that we have to be very careful about as well. Even with our love for the country and love for the people, the nationalism, the hyper nationalism um, can be something that comes to hit us back in our head, right? And as feminists, right, I'm not even just talking about feminists who think about women and children. We're thinking about feminists as anti-war folks, all right, anti-violence people. And and we need to make sure that this arrogance that develops, the power, the sense of power that corrupts the mind, does not infect us and infect the leaders that we're choosing. And given how already the work that we do on ground, the work that Tashi does, the work that Anjali does, the work that people that we admire do on the ground is always invisibilized and co-opted by, again, people like Balin, people like the leaders from Nepal, who are already taking up space, right? How do we make sure that we are keeping them accountable, keeping them in check, while also thinking about how these systems that kind of replicate themselves, even with our good intentions. And that is why when I say, like, we cannot think about old and new and old and young, even with our good intentions in our interpersonal relationships to these collective movements, to these national movements, if we do not introspect as we move forward, we it is it can be that these systems replicate themselves without us knowing, right? And yes, this perhaps the planning would not have brought out the kind of catalytic movement that this Gen Z movement has brought out, right? But now that we have some sort of safety, that we have dissolved the, I mean, I'm not sure about dissolving the parliament, but that we have broken the deadlock of these leaders who were not even listening to their own constituents, who were not even listening to their own parliamentarians, right? So we have done that. We are no longer in the danger of an army coup, and so that at this point, to be able to think about in the long run what direction we're taking, and in terms of what kind of leaders we choose and how we make them accountable. I am, maybe this is the cynicism, or maybe this is just what comes with having worked with people for long term, and seeing even the brightest of minds in our country have to deal with what seems as foolery, but very intentional ignorance of these people, the Brahmin Chetri people as a system, and all of that. We know that there's going to be a lot of patience required, a lot of courage required, a lot of introspection required, and it will require us to do this together. So I really hope that amongst us who care, who are going to be here for the long run, who are going to sustain our attention beyond what social media quick releases and catharsises are, that we stay together despite our differences, and through our differences, and see what it will teach us.
Right, Ujjwala, a lot of the focus of a lot of what has happened has been around Gen Z. Obviously, the protests were called Gen Z protests, but you have warned about reducing things to binaries in this situation. I want you to specifically talk about the need to have an intergenerational conversation as well in Nepal.
Definitely, definitely. I think so. This was, I was thinking about this even before this movement happened, right? Because I've been working with young people like Anjali. I've been in interaction with really amazing women, queer activists, or even just young people, right? Like as an educator, I see that, and then also having friends who are older artists and thinkers, and people who've been on the ground, who've lost their loved ones during the conflict, right, during a lot of these struggles. And even what we don't see, again, the beyond these revolutions and these protests, um, consistently there has been systemic violence, and so many people have lost their loved ones to that, right? And I'm thinking about this one particular incident that I became aware of recently. So the citizenship through mothers, the little bit gain that we've gained in terms of citizenship through mothers, it wasn't us feminists from the English speaking community, from the Kathmandu spaces, from all these spaces who fought for this and who were able to get this. It was the Badi movement. The Badi community is a Dalit community, one of the most marginalized and one of the most oppressed Dalit community, who are traditionally, who were traditionally like musicians and artists and dancers, but also now, framed as sex workers, right? And I am very much with all the work that the Badi community has done, that the sex work community has done to help us get citizenship through mothers, right? So we forget that these wisdoms that we really need to tap into, this resistance that we really need to tap into, is not going to be limited to some of the books that we read, legal or non-legal, or the university spaces, the how it radicalizes us, right? That is beautiful, that is needed, that is wonderful, to finally be able to like hear young people talk, young women talk, right? Like, even I, before coming into this podcast, was very hesitant, like, what do I talk or not? It is important to take up space, but also make sure that we are stepping back, tapping into the wisdom of this, what this intergenerational conversation can bring. And when I say intergenerational, I do not just mean, again, these public intellectuals and people in the politics. We have to be thinking, we have to be interacting with, engaging with people on the ground who have this wisdom and this resistance, who have been steadfast to help us make what we have won in this in this historic moment, to make sure that we not just protect this but take this forward.
Thanks, Ujjwala. I'm going to come to my final question. We've been talking for a while now, but I just want to ask each of you for one recommendation for people to understand this moment in Nepal better. Now, this can be a recommendation for a book or a movie or another podcast, or maybe even a play that's running somewhere. So, Tashi, if I can start with you.
Please tune in and listen to Indigenous TV, who did an interview of where do the marginal people stands in this movement. Because from a marginal standpoint, you'll get more richer and comprehensive understanding of this movement. And also, most importantly, there are so many misinformation and disinformation taking across the social media by storm. Think, ask question critically, whatever you are consuming, ask where that is coming from, who is telling that narrative. And always look for Gen Z, ask Gen Z people. And read. I think I would recommend, I believe lot of the Himal South Asians audience would be, I don't know, based in India. But I would strongly urge you all to read Amish Mulmi's take on this Gen Z movement as well. I'm a huge fan of him.
Thanks for your recommendations, Tashi. And of course, Amish is a Himal contributor, and I will be linking to his pieces for Himal in the episode notes. Anjali, can we have your recommendation, please?
The first recommendation is please check who is writing it. If the white people is writing it, if the upper caste people is writing it, if the upper class people is writing it, then there might be a very uh, beautification aesthetic niche of that article, obviously, because they have mastered it. But when you read a Dalit writers, when you read a marginalized writers, then there comes the pure perspective of a tiger rather than a hunter. So recently I read two books written on Madhesh, which is in English, Regionalism and Nationality in Nepal, written by a Ferdic case, who is uh, a white writer. And then I read a book of Raghunath Thakur, written by his brother. Then both book was centered on Madhesh, and one of the issue was scholarship, but it was very differently put it down. And that's where this wisdom comes from, that whenever you decide to read any article, check who is the author, check who is the author, is the author highly privileged or not. And coming back to the specific, I have recently found, not recently, but there's Madhesi senior of ours, Chandan Kumar Mahato, who has this Substacks Madhes Matters. So if you want to know more about Madhes issue, then you must subscribe him and read his articles about this, and also read women writers. And even like whenever I send my article opinions, then most of the time it gets rejected because of my age, because of my so many other things. So when you start reading people like us, then I we get the space to write and publish. So yeah, and also there is this book Adhura Kranti, which is in Nepali again, so might be a problem for the audience. But if you can find the summary or things like that, then you can read that.
Thank you for the recommendations on Madhe's writing and literature. Certainly very important to highlight when other people don't make these recommendations. Ujjwala, your recommendations?
I don't particularly have a recommendation right now, but I think like all the names that have been put here, Amish Mumi and Pranay Rana and Roman Gautam, who are already part of Himal. So for the English readers, right? But what just I'm going to what Anjali said. I'm writing on that. I was also going to say who are you reading really matters at this point, right? And I think and the people I would recommend are have still not yet written beyond their Facebook posts or at this point, because they're taking time to really come up with what we have to say in this at this very very important time, right? But I would say Sarita Paryal, if not if she has not written it right now, she will you just read some of her pieces that have been translated into English in Record. You'll probably find some of them in Record, but just Google Sarita Paryar. She again is a writer, a Dalit activist, a caste scholar, who has been thinking about how what she said, how caste and class political elite has been formed, and people think like, you know, oh, this is like, oh, these many Browns or these many Chetris in the political sphere. That is why they're tainting the name of entire Brahmins. But then they don't see how the system is operating here and how you are also very likely to be prey to that system and d- replicate what has already been happening, right? So Sarita Paryar, I would say Gauri Nepali is another person, again, a friend and a colleague, who's a Dalit writer, activist, and a student leader. One of the she was one of the student leaders at one point, and who else? Like Dr. Amina Singh, um, Pranika Koyu. Uh, there'll be more to come, and I'm really looking forward to that. I'm very very grateful for all the and Aishma Regmi. These are friends, but also these are really amazing women thinkers and writers who are doing the kind of work that we're talking about, but very in different ways. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing what they have to say and how they guide us through
Thank
as well. No pressure on them because I know these are all like, but yeah.
So for the poems, maybe you can read Muhammad Darwish.
And erotics of liberation for just in terms of how we go about this work of liberation.
If you want to learn about Nepal's Gen Z protest, do not listen and do not read Indian media. I am so sorry.
Yes, I think that is the best suggestion. But thank you so much, Ujjwala, Anjali, Tashi, for this wonderful conversation, for being very frank and honest about uh, the problems within the movement itself. Because if we don't talk about that, then how do we address them?
Mhm.
Thank you so much for speaking about all of that. It was a pleasure to have you on this podcast.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you so much.
That was Ujjawala Maharjan, Anjali Sah, and Tashi Lhozam on the State of South Asia podcast. You'll find their recommendations and much more in the episode notes. If you like this episode, leave us a comment or write to us at editorial@himalmag.com. Tell us what you want to hear about on this podcast. Don't forget to tune in to the South Asia Review of Books podcast with Himal's Shweta Srikantan and our special podcast series, Partitions of the Heart, hosted by the peace activist Harsh Mandar. We have a new season coming out this week on Wednesday, September 17th, which is about the 100-year legacy of the RSS and its corrosion of public life in India. Don't miss this essential set of conversations with prominent scholars and observers of India's politics and society. Follow the Himal South Asian podcast channel on your podcast app to find all our latest episodes, and you can share, rate, and review them. You can also sign up to our newsletters to keep up with Himal's work. This episode was edited by Ritika Chauhan. We'll be back soon with another in-depth conversation on the next episode of State of South Asia with me, Nayantara Narayanan. Thank you for listening and see you then.